Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the DollyFly16 with the 04 Pro inside. This is from Sub250.com. Technically, it does come also without an 04 Pro. You can get it with or without the Express LRS receiver. If you are a DJI controller user, I have a chart linked down in the video description that has a compatibility chart on whether your controller is compatible with the 04 Pro. And if you want the version that will work with your controller, if it's compatible, you would want the plug-and-play version. Flight controller that we really can't see, but we can see the USB port, which is a micro USB port, is the Taker F411. It is a 12 amp all-in-one flight controller. Motors are 1103, 14,000 kV. The props are the GymFan 1639 quad bladed props. Carbon fiber is 2mm thick. Motor post for motor post, I'm getting just about 85mm. The camera mount is dampened with these rubber balls in these 4 positions. We also have camera angle adjustments that we can make. I ended my flying time with it at the highest angle, which you'll see last in this video. 04 Pro is mounted down here at the bottom. We can get access to our USB port as well as our micro SD card. We have 3D printed pieces for our battery tray, and it is just one option. We also have 3D prints for our antenna holders. If you get the plug-and-play version, you wouldn't have this. It does come with all these accessories, extra props, some balls, some screws. We do get this extra frame with an extra camera housing, as well as an extra mount for your VTX, and these tools. And it does come with 2 sheets of stickers. It weighs just a touch over 91 grams. I did fly it on all these batteries. The battery with the highest flight time that you might expect is the Tattoo 550 at a cruisy indoor flight time of 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Next we have the green and the red with a cruisy indoor flight time of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The yellow 530, which is essentially the same as the Sub250 530, gave me about 245 in indoor cruisy flight time. This old blue G&B 450 gave me about 3 minutes and 20 seconds on average. Next is the Lava 450, which gave me about 3 minutes flat. And the little 380 only gave me 2 minutes and 30 seconds with a fair bit of on-screen low voltage warnings. We're just going to weigh a couple of them. Let's start with the heaviest. With the Tattoo 550, it weighs 123.27 grams. With the G&B 530, it weighs 117.77 grams. With the blue G&B, that's 450 milliamp, it weighs just a touch over 118 grams. With the Lava 450, it weighs just a touch over 117 grams. And with the little 380, it weighs 113.66 grams. We're going to start out with this early morning flight. This is actually before I headed off to work today. Temperature is only 71 degrees. The official weather or wind measurement is 9 miles an hour, but yeah, I wrote down when I got back inside, calm. So barely, nearly a wind. This is pretty much the environment or the wind factors that you'd probably want to fly something like this in. It's small, even though it's 2S and can fight off a little bit more wind because it's at more weight than, say, a 30-gram analog whoop. This is going to, because of the flat surfaces and the prop protection, if you get wind, as we're going to see yet in this video, it does tend to push you off the lines, and then rocksteady will kind of smooth us out. So it's nice to have that. Of course, you can pass the footage through stabilized video programs of various sorts if you want to. A lot of people use GyroFlow. But for review purposes, I don't do any extra stabilization. As it comes is how I want to show it. And as we pass the tree, hopefully you saw that some of those branches and leaves were moving. But again, official weather measurement was 9 miles an hour, and where I'm sitting down in the yard, I could barely feel any wind at all. We have transitioned, if you didn't notice, from the DVR or goggle view into the rocksteady or onboard recording from the VTX. I do only record these at 1080p just to save space because I do put these through a number of different flights. The flight times that I reported already, I did all those inside because that made it a lot easier to test more batteries. And with the format of this quad, I can do that in the evening time. I don't have to worry about having proper wind or outside variables that would play a role in my battery testing from day to day, because there's no way that I'd be able to get in enough flights during, say, my lunch break or between activities of getting home from work and the kids to do all the different batteries, because a lot of batteries do fit within the battery tray. To my surprise, when I initially got this, I thought, boy, I hope there's another battery tray inside there. I'm not certain how the battery tray clips in. It doesn't appear to screw in, but there are 2 flaps. You may have noticed that when we were looking at the quad, the print is split at the bottom. So I presume it's some sort of clip-in system with the print. but I don't know how difficult that is to replace it. I have a few people over time that have given me questions about the Flywoo products and how you get those twist lock in. That's why I showed it in the last Flywoo product. But the gyro stabilized footage came out quite well, and we're going to move on now that we transitioned back into the DVR view. Let's go into a windy environment. So as we're sitting here on the ground, yeah, look at those branches. It's actually moving it on the table a little bit too, but yeah, we got quite a bit of wind. Only 86 degrees, so pretty reasonable temperatures for the dog days of summer. And as I take off, the wind just pushed me right back. Normally, I'm kind of always angling forward off that table, but the wind pushed me back. Winds are 23 to 32 miles an hour, and I think you'll be able to see in this footage that it does push me around. You can certainly fly it in this sort of wind, but I think if you're going for cinematic, smooth sorts of flight footage you might be posting or using for other purposes. Maybe you have a drone business where you do flight recordings for people, real estate fly-throughs, what have you. You can fly it in this wind, and as we transitioned over to the gyro stabilized footage, it actually does quite a good job in smoothing out a lot of those bumps that we will see in the goggles when we fly in this sort of high wind. So keep your eye on those things. Those are probably the most important factors, because this is, as I see it, a quad that's designed to do cinematic sort of flying. And it's not necessarily made to be fast or agile or anything like that, although here shortly we will be going back to my preferred flight style, which is faster, more aggressive, and with a few mediocre or mild tricks that I tend to do across reviews, just so you get an idea that, you know, maybe you have this and it serves the purpose that you bought it for, what, you know, filming sort of drone or cinematic sort of drone, but maybe you get a wild hair and you want to do other sorts of flights, or you might be out chasing someone on a bike or something that's just moving faster, or you want to flow through your scene faster. You'll get an idea how it flies faster as well coming up. That's why I do all these different flights across essentially a week. It's usually 5 flight sessions. Most of my flight sessions are at least 6 batteries, but sometimes they get upwards of 10 or 12 or so like that. When I was doing the flight testing, as far as flight time indoors, well, I couldn't tell you. I think I sat down and flew for an hour and a half to 2 hours that evening, because it's not just a single battery that I showed you in the video. I have 3 each of those batteries out, and sometimes I run across the battery that has probably been used and abused by me, and I can tell that the flight time is way down per the others of the same brand and size, and then I have to throw that one out and go get a different one. Throw it out as far as I don't use that in my calculations for flight time. Of course, the indoor flight time is going to be lower than it is if you were to fly outside, just because outside you're going to be taking longer lines, provided you're not flying in really high winds and have to fight it a lot. Indoor is going to have a lot more turns, so that tends to shorten our flight time ever so slightly. But that's enough of this high wind. This was the thing I thought was most remarkable about this quad at this size. Quick warning before we take off, this is loud, turn down your volume. Okay, I'm going to reduce the volume now. I just wanted to give you a little sample. This is my flight time testing that I did at nighttime. The props definitely have a whistle to them. It's not the props. It's something about the aerodynamics of the props with this prop protection. I've flown these props before and didn't notice this sound, but if you didn't hear it in the outside part, you could definitely hear it in the inside part, because it's definitely got a whistle. And it seems to be relatively throttle specific, because I didn't always hear it when I flew at higher throttle values, but maybe I was just becoming immune to it by that point, having flown it so many different times. But I wanted to show you some indoor flying. This is the type of flying I was doing for the flight time testing across all those batteries that I showed you, and a little proof of concept that, yeah, you could certainly fly this inside. I wouldn't plan to fly it fast inside, because you could still do damage, but if you have filming that you want to do for a residence, a fly-through, something along those lines, perfectly doable, provided you have the appropriate experience and skill set. This is my preferred flying, and the weather. What's the weather on this one? This was just yesterday, 95 degrees, wind at 11 to 13 miles an hour. So there is a fair bit of wind, and something I don't think comes through real strongly in this particular flight, but it is fairly common in these kind of quads with prop protection. When you do the punch out and then you get the nose down or the camera down and you're at 0 throttle, there can be a little bit of a what I oftentimes refer to it as a waggle, but there's movement that's not controlled. So it's not you moving the sticks, and it kind of moves back and forth across the yaw axis. Now, we've looked at that previously with Sinlog30, I think it was, and then Brandon Baked Beans. He had made the suggestion to increase throttle linearization, and I did that in that video, secondary video, and it did take care of it, at least to my eye, for the most part. So that's something that if you have this and you have that sort of waggle at the top of your punch outs when you get your nose down, you could try that. There are also other methods you could probably do. Just a different PID tune or filtering might improve that as well. I don't do that in the initial review videos because that's changing it. I fly them as they come to us. That way you know what you would be getting right out of the box, just as I would, provided they haven't made any changes between the time I receive mine and you receive yours. So something to keep in mind. So flying like this with smaller batteries, and I am using a 550 here that's a Tattoo. When you're flying aggressively, you do get a lot of battery warnings that kind of come and go. I have turned the voltage warning down a little bit. I never really got it locked in because I was still tinkering with different 450s, deciding which ones I kind of like the most. And to have a reasonable amount of aggressive flight time, I had to go up to the larger battery, which does have its downsides. You know, if you're trying to do quick, fast maneuvers, it can kind of drag you through your corners and slow that agility action down just a touch. But really the only fault that I found with it in flying aggressively is that I think when you get some wind and you're flying faster, that the camera and the rubber dampening tends to jiggle a little bit more. It's not apparent in this, but I did experience it in other flights. So that's something to be aware of. But that flight ended. Battery came way back up to 3.63 volts per cell. A flight time at 218, probably could have got 225. So I'm going to repeat myself. The flight times that I reported across all these batteries, those were across just not this individual one, and this is the same across all my videos. I had 3 of each battery out, and if one of them showed a substantially lower flight time, I went back to my bag and got another one, so it would technically get a 4th battery. So how many flights I've had on this, it doesn't really matter that much. A number of flights over the course of about a week period of time. You can see I've got some grass stains in here. Let's get in a little closer. There we go. Now you can see the grass stains, mainly over here. And I did have, during a turtle mode of one, that I did have one of the props fall off. It didn't go far, oddly enough, probably because it just ejected down. But it was upside down at that time, and I was trying to turtle mode it. So one of the props did fly off. And these are press-on props. So one of the things that you can do through the tips that I've gotten through the comment section is to, if you find a prop is tending to fly off, is to put some dental floss in the prop hole where the motor stem goes, and then put your prop on. So you have the prop off, put your dental floss through, or some thread, that would probably work as well, and then shove it on, and then trim off the excess, of course, the top and the bottom. That should tighten the prop back up, allow you to use it a little bit longer. I didn't have any serious crashes, but I'll play a few of most of them were, you know, I got tied up in the tall grass, or I had a rough landing once that I recall. Maybe I did a bad power loop and just kind of plumped down in the grass, or I didn't hit the throttle hard enough from a dive. So I don't really have any dramatic crashes where I wanged a pole or anything like that. Obviously, with pretty much all these 04 quads, I don't know when you get into the bigger 5-inch quads if it's any different, because I don't fly those. But the camera is pretty much always exposed. I think they've come close to providing a slight bit of protection in this highest camera angles. You see it. If something were to hit across right here, it would, well, one, it would shift on the dampening, but it wouldn't necessarily hit the lens. If I got that lined up just right, I don't know if I got it just right, but it looks like in my eye it would hit the plastic housing of the camera. If you can't see it, there's 2 screws, one down here, one up there. Loosen those up, turn your camera up and down. The first time you move the camera angle, it is pretty difficult. I did feel like I was putting on more pressure on the camera than I should, even though I had the screws very, very loose. It seems to have kind of a catch point in there that after that first time of changing the camera angle, it got better for me. You may have noticed in the accessories that we get, it does have motor or metal stems that go through the plastic frame. through these positions, and we get extras there. And that's not unusual in this design, but it is something I want to highlight. Oh, I've got some grass stuck up in there. Need to clean it up a little bit more. But that helps to give it some rigidity. As far as rigidity goes, this isn't very rigid plastic. I mean, it is going to bend and it is going to hit your props. As far as how durable it is, how fast you can hit these, again, I didn't have any high-speed crashes into really hard things kind of organically through the time that I had it, but you can see I've got some stress points, hopefully, if I get the light just right. I don't know if I get it. I don't know, I think my camera's good enough. There are a couple of stress points, which are white, right here, and those are right in those angles. So that could be just manufacturing, but it does resemble stress points at the very least. And then this mounting mounts into those stems there, those metal posts that we have as well. Yeah, as is the case with most of these small 04 base quads, if you have to work on them, you're going to have to take the VTX out in order to get down in there, and you may also need to take off the prop protection in order to get relatively easy access to your all-in-one flight controller, because the motors are, if you can see in there, the motors are not on motor connectors. Those are soldered to the board. So to replace a motor, if you were to need to, you're going to need to take off at the very least the VTX, and then if you have enough space to get your soldering iron down in there, fine, but otherwise slide the prop protection off as well. Again, all these batteries will fit into this battery tray. Of course, the 550, which is the biggest and the fattest of the group, fits in the tightest, but it does go in, and then I was still able to use the smaller size batteries without them falling out, even when I was flying faster and I had a few of those minor tumbles. So you should be fine in flying any of these batteries long term, I hope. That is the DollyFly16. The most remarkable thing I thought about this quad, as far as how it's designed, you know, that sort of smooth cinematic sort of flying, is how it handled the wind when you have rocksteady enabled, of course. I tried to make sure I showed you what the goggle view was like by transitioning in that flight from the goggle view to the gyro stabilized onboard footage. So hopefully you got a good idea. But I myself did not expect it to appear so smooth in 23 to 32 mile-an-hour winds. The price on this, it ranges from, if you don't get it with an 04 Pro, this one uses the Pro, and no receiver, $109, but if you get it with an Express LRS as well as the 04 Pro, which is what I have here, it comes in at $379. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the DollyFly16 from Sub250.com, please let me know down in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.